Yes, I'd like to introduce you to Ian Whitehead, who's in charge of the pictures and also in charge of the maritime section of the Tyne Museum. And but for him, we wouldn't all be here, because he's also written 2 books on the subject of the days when people are really great on Tyneside, and nowadays Newcastle United just pales into insignificance.
and he's what you call very knowledgeable, but you may have wondered why you were looking at a picture of the Bladen races. And we're supposed to be doing this business about the oarsmen and all the rest of it. And I'm sure if you prodded him with a stick and coaxed him nicely, he would let you into the secret.
Okay, well, the connection between Bladen races and rowing is that the first time the song was performed by Geordie Ridley was on the 5th of June 1862 at Bamborough's Wheatsheaf Music Hall at the testimonial for Harry Clasper, who at 50 years old was coming to the end of his career, and then a testimonial was called, and they had a big concert at Bamborough's. Marvellous scene with a skiff hanging from the ceiling, models of boats, trophies and flags on stage, other songs other than the Bladen races, and then at 10 o'clock Harry Clasper and his crew appeared on stage to the accompaniment of the keel row, complete with oars and rowing costumes. So this is the introduction to a period where it was a golden time for rowing on Tyneside. And before we go to the next song, I just want to do a quick introduction to the course that they rowed when they were racing at that time, and then very quickly on to the first of the big champions, which was Harry Clasper. So there's the course. It ran from just where we are now, really, high level bridge, and then upriver. At that time there were some islands in the river, King's Meadows. There's the start at high level bridge. See the big crowds that were there to watch the race. There's halfway at the King's Meadows Island, which if we stopped dredging altogether eventually would reform. But the other big attraction of the King's Meadows Island was there was a pub on it, the Countess and Coventry. And so it was a good place to have regattas, and they had swimming galas and so on there as well. But it was the Armstrong Works that did for the King's Meadows, because they dredged it away so that they could launch warships from Elsick and so on. And then you continued upriver. The Ascension Day boat race, those are the kind of races that took place around King's Meadows. And then finally the finish at the Chain Bridge at Scotswood. As you can see, you could take any vantage point you wanted, and in order to get under the bridge, the spectator boats which followed. And the reason they followed is the best way to follow the race, obviously in a boat, but also the gambling continued. It was all about gambling, it's professional racing, so you were right on the spot to take the odds or lay the odds, and there's the finish of the race. The funnels were hinged, so they could fit under the bridge, but in the excitement once, one of the skippers forgot to hinge the funnel down and got stuck under the bridge. So, I think if we see there's Harry Clasper. He's the first of the big champions, born in 1812.
Like a fish in the sea, and the lasses all shoot as he gams past the quay. And away down the land, Harry's the king of the Thames and the Tyne. To the jar of the cockneys he never lets heed. He kens do with the lads is abune their own breed, and smash if he loses, which isn't his plan. He'll act for his friends like a trump and a man. And away, never flinch, he's the king of the Thames and the Tyne. Well, he gave the grand coons the Newell's a gliff. The Londoners cracked of his bonny bit skiff, and when like a hero he carried the day, the men he had conquered was heard for to say. Gone ahead, stunning lad, Harry's the king of the Thames and the Tyne. Success to brave Harry, and long may he shine, the champion of boatmen and the pride of the Tyne. And when the time comes for his spirit to flee, may the Derwent Hoff lasses with tears in their eye cry farewell, canny lad, will not say they marrows may bear on the Tyne.
So there's Harry Clasper in his skiff. The next song's about a race that Harry had with a rower by the name of Coombs, Robert Coombs, who was one of the top oarsmen from the Thames. The song was distributed ahead of the race, so you don't get any details of the race, but it looks forward to the Wednesday that the race will be. This particular race, the railway companies had seen an opportunity to follow the race using railway carriages being slowly hauled along at the speed of the scullers. It was very good marketing, but I don't think the view of the race was very good. There's also a reference in this song to having them posted down their tin, which refers to the business of depositing the stake. You started off by going into the pub and slamming your money down on the bar, and it was up to the other chap to match it. So this particular race was on the 18th of December 1844. It was for £180, which is probably about 200 times as much now. And it was a milestone in that Coombs had come north to row against Harry. Harry had built himself a fine single scull, and I think this picture is probably of that skull. It's described in the journal as he's built himself a beautiful mahogany skiff, a perfect model in form, almost a toy, more fit as an ornament for a parlour than a boat to row in. Sadly, Harry lost the race. He was still a bit rough and ready as a sculler at this stage, and he was wandering due to rowing too hard on the right-hand side. He ran into a keel at Skinnerburn soon after the start, that is, and the skiff wasn't perfect either. But by 1845, a year later, the skiff he used was becoming famous and was being used successfully by other scullers. So it's really the start of Harry with his very good boat building skills. So on to Clasper conclusions.
I read Tracy Introduction. I'll tell you what I think's amazing about the song is that for all it was written and distributed previous to the race, it never once suggests that he could possibly get beaten until the very last verse, and that word "if" creeps in very gently. All ye that wish to hear a song, come listen to me ditty. About a man behind his tongue and walk from London City. On a Wednesday the both agreed, if weather should prove fine, sir, to have a rubber march and speed upon the river Tyne, sir. The stakes is laid, all things may be posted down that tin, sir. On Wednesday we hope and trust that Clasper he will win, sir. And if he dares will make me doubt, there'll be a regular shine, sir, when you swing your tongues and gain the day upon the river Tyne, sir. In the morning from the bridge they'll sparkle, both of them endeavour to pull the best to get the lead when rowing up the river. And when they get to Leamington, the loser will repine, sir, when he finds that he has lost the stakes upon the river Tyne, sir. And as they up the river go, they'll have spectators plenty. Steam carriages on the riverside will move along quite gently. They'll be filled with passengers, with gents and ladies fine, sir, to watch both Harry the Wasp begin the race upon the Tyne, sir. And now if Clasper gains the day, you're all with me in Greece, in Durham, Northumberland, there'll be a glorious breeze. They'll fill my glass and drink this toast, hand in hand together boast. Success the Clasper wins, his race upon the Tyne song. I will just going to continue straight through with the testimonial.
I was just going to say a quick word about it.
A quick word.
It's Harry in his rowing costume. It's the kind of thing he'd be wearing at the testimonial, probably holding his colours. It's a studio photograph, probably in 1859.
I thought we should have done that, but Johnny argued. You know.
What, dressing up? Yeah, no. I thought we'd look a treat, I think, in rowing costume.
Hiring it, you know.
Difficult to get. And he's got his rudder with him as well, which shows his trade. This song was specially written for the testimonial. It was published in the Newcastle Chronicle. It was very much a call to donate money, with a final verse that threatens that Harry will haunt the river if he's not treated well. And using the proceeds of this testimonial, Harry was set up in the Clasper Hotel on the Scotswood Road. So take it away, Benny.
There's a little bit for you in this, no bother at all. The first word always changes, but there's Harry and he's plucky as ever, and Clasper the pride of what Ardcwally Tyne is the second line of the chorus, is all the way through to the very last verse. And those of you who are in the TMC will know the bit anyway, so there's no excuse for not bellowing loudly in my direction. Times to ride on the sea, and the nuts if I rang. Now she's made a tough trial and she's tested him long. I mean Harry Clasper, that we'll call his name, but I'm sure there's nobody can couple it with shame. Faithful lad Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. Times to ride all our dodges, and says he's a square, both in mind and in body he's sound everywhere. Nae better man ever took hard of an oar, nor can't you find fault with him when he's ashore. Faultless lad Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. Take him all and all, as Shakespeare says, I've clean forgot where, it's in one of his plays. You'll not find his equal in Thames or in Tyne, for in life or in death Harry Clasper will shine. Matchless lad Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. While the laurels are still hanging thick round his brow, he's took to his heed for to bid ye adieu. He thinks of the young'uns that's fond of the skull, and to give them a chance he's nae mair gan to pull. Doubtful lad Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. For the honours he's brought to all canny Tyne, folk talk about giving him something that's fine. A smart testimonial, I think it's but fair, for we can you think that deserves one mair. Canny yard Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. Now look what he's done in the boat rowing way, what fine skiffs he's made of the best of that day. And look what a man he's trained into his place. Do you think there's a check dog if Chambers a race? Wonderful lad Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. Let's all try our best now and see if we can raise something to say that we think him a man that's a chapter respective to this you'll agree. Lift up your voice, sing to Harry with me. Worthy old Harry, plucky as ever, Clasper the pride of what I'll call his Tyne. If we don't behave well about Harry, you'll see his ghost when his deed will be seen from the quay. In a skiff by the bridge about 12 every night, till the morning cock crows, then he'll row out of sight. Spirited old Harry, row on forever, your name it'll flourish, the pride of the Tyne.
Well, that leads us from that song into the next of the great champions from the Tyne. It's Bob Chambers. This is him in his rowing costume again. I really think we should have put the rowing costume on. It's a recurrent theme. He was born in 1831 and he followed Harry Clasper as the top oarsman. He was coached by Harry and rode in many of Harry's successful crews in the late 1850s. He won the Championship of the Thames in 1859, was really the top race at that time, and remained at the top until the mid-1860s, when his health began to fail as the result of TB. Biographical sketches of Bob Chambers always start with the tale of him borrowing ship's boats from Walker Shore, and this song duly refers to that. The story is that he often had his ears boxed by sailors for his boat borrowing habit, but it never stopped him. He then followed his father into Losh, Wilson and Bell's Walker Ironworks, spending several years as a puddler. Puddler's a way of turning pig iron to bar iron, and the verse refers to Bob flinging his tongs away, the tongs that were used to pick up the ball of puddle iron, and that is then rolled to make bar or wrought iron. So that's what that verse is about. The other thing that Bob Chambers was most famous for was for being straight. He was nicknamed Honest Bob Chambers, and that's referred to in the song as being always on the square.
Now of all the men that we have had, Bob Chambers licks them all. He always rows a good fair race and never makes it draw. Whatever races he does row, name money will buy him. But Bob is always on the square, and it's either loss or win. Here's to the lad with the bonny neat hair, and long may his name shine. He's looked upon by all his friends as the son of the golden tyne. Now when Bob used to go to school with slates stuck on his back, I've often heard the hard wives say he'd take another track. Down to the show he'd often gone and take a boat away. Well, that was Bobby's hobby, and he's kept it till this day. So here's to the lad with the bonny neat hair, and long may his name shine. He's looked upon by all his friends as the son of the golden tyne. One day when Bob had gone to school, he sat beside a mate. They all thought he was writing, but he was drawing on the slates. The mate of Bob's was hard at work, like other lads he wrote. The master come behind young Bob and found him drawing a boat. Here's to the lad with the bonny white hair, and long may his name shine. He's looked upon by all his friends as the son of the golden tyne. When Bob's been skillin' it was done, they sent him off to war. The place it was a rolling mill, where the walk with only saw. When Bob's day walk was finished, she as big as mother's note, he'd gone and spent his leisure hours in his fancy, that's a boat. So here's to the one with the bonny neat hair, and long may his name shine. He's looked upon by all his friends as the son of the golden tyne. Now Bob worked hard for many a year till he reached the mountain top. And then he flung his tongues away, now walked another shop. But he was honest to his heart, and brilliant did he shine. With his oars and his hand he'd always stand, a credit to the tyne. Here's to the lad with the bonny neat hair, and long may his name shine. He's looked upon by all his friends as the son of the golden tyne.
So Bob Chambers, very superior sculler, and this is a painting that's in the collection at the Shipley Art Gallery by John Walker Swift, and it's of a race that took place in September 1864 in very rough conditions. I been known to get quite grumpy when they cancel the Durham University versus Newcastle University boat race because it's too rough and feel like showing them this painting. However, these are professionals and they're not people's, well, they were people's sons and daughters, but in a different situation. So it was reckoned to be the roughest day that they ever had a major race on the Tyne. 17 spectator boats, you can see lots of them, you see the huge crowds. The first day, Chambers' boat was holed and the race was stopped when his scull began to sink. The race was rowed again, and this time Bob Chambers won. He was rowing against a rower called Bob Cooper, who's known as the Regia ferryman, that was his trade, and he'd beaten Bob Chambers twice over short distances. So they were able to drum up a lot of interest for this race and have a big stake on it. And this song that is going to be sung by the lads over there is my favourite rowing song. It's The Adventures of Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray. It's funny with a universal theme of young love, and you even get the result of the race as well.
It's, you know, what struck me with this one, Ian, when I first saw it, was just this, the glorious description. You talk about the spectator boats, and I had never ever thought about people actually following them in rowing boats, you know, because you see the big races in London and all the rest of it, and the great and the good are all chugging away nicely, you know. I mean, the worst of them's got a steamboat, you know, but the idea of blokes, you know, working a full shift at work and then doing this for fun of a weekend, you know, it's that sort of, you know, it just beggars belief. Anyway, there's bits for you. You should have seen the race that day when Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray got in a boat among the spray at Chambers and Cooper's boat race. And the tune's not unheard of because it's Stanley Market. Young Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray both meant to spend a happy day along the quay. They met the way to see the champion boat race, where Dolly's fine and dandy clothes and reddish eyes and turned up nose made all the people stop and stare to see the fine and blooming hair. But Jim, as well as Dolly Gray, was quite a swell and looked so gay. He stole young Dolly's heart away when they went to see the boat race. You should have seen the race that day when Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray got in a boat among the spray. And Jim and the well boat race. They're both agreed to hire a boat when Jim to pull took off his coat. Both Doll and him were soon afloat to see the champion boat race. He took an oar and so did she, and pulled away the race to sea. They're off the hook, the people shout when Dolly pulled the boat about. Says she, I'll bet me hoops and gown against your shouting half a crown. The Chambers brings Bob Cooper down, this day he'll win the boat race. Now you should have seen the race that day when Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray got in a boat among the spray. And James and the Welsh boat race. Bob Chambers now had got quite near with Cooper pulling in the rear. His backers soon would fill with fear. This day he would lose the boat race. Young Dolly and her sweetheart Sweep, the trembling seats that couldn't keep. The boat stood up to see the race, quite heedless of their standing place. The wind got up young Dolly's clothes, and like a big balloon she rose. And over the boat poor Dolly goes the day they pulled the boat race. Yes, should have seen the race that day when Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray got in a boat among the spray. And Jim was the world boat race. Jim screamed aloud for help to save poor Dolly from a watery grave. None come near the Sweeps so brave to save her at the boat race. At last, with one despairing stoop, he seized poor Dolly's dandy hoop, and he gave a tug, but sad to say, the hoops and petticoats gave way. And he wrung his hands, he blew his snout, then like a giant brave and stout, he clutched her leg and he pulled her out again and won the boat race. Now you should have seen the race that day when Jim the Sweep and Dolly Gray got in a boat along the spray. boat, they're off again to reach the land with might and main. Poor Dolly, filled with fear and pain, the day they pulled the boat race. At last on shore they heard the news that Chambers, his brave man, subdued. For Cooper in the champion race could never get the leading place. Then Jim Dolly soon got tight in a beer house out of sight, with drinking fun to spend the night and finish up the boat race. Yes, should have seen the race that day when Jim was sweet and Dolly Ray got in a boat and back the sway. Ah, Jim is Cooper's boat race.
This is Bob Chambers in his boat for a race against Richard Green, who was from Australia, in the same year as the 1 mile race that Cooper had with Chambers. And that race took place when Bob Chambers was at the height of his powers, but for a short period Bob Cooper beat him twice, once at Torquay Tarn, where they still have a regatta, short course, and then in the race on the Tyne over a mile. The secret was probably in Cooper's fast stroke, which he could maintain over a short distance, but over the championship course of 3.5 miles, Chambers' longer stroke and greater strength was superior. This song about the 1 mile race, which is the next one, is a lovely song with great attention to the social nature of a rowing race and a little joke about gambling, and the evergreen theme, even today, of the importance of defeating the cockers.
Absolutely. Hold on.
This is to the tune of the Pawn Shop Pleasing, which was one of the standard tunes that people wrote, and it was by Joe Wilson, who must have made a bit of money out of the races because he kept writing lots of songs about the rowers, like you do. I wonder what will happen if Newcastle ever gets in the next lot. Somebody might write some songs out of pity. Director say trembling piano hand. Oh, Jack and Tom along with me joined the hurry-scurry that spread along Newcastle Quay when folks with frantic flurry rushed here and there to get a place that they might see the Greek boat race. Along the close the madly pushed, and poor souls' feet got sair crushed, and poor souls' feet that sported corn was nice and clean, though roughly shorn, when they went to see the boat race. On the river all sorts of craft, from worries to the steamer, was crowded wheel both fore and aft, by mark ye as nae dreamer. The banks and bridges such a sight, for lads were scrambling left and right, and lasses with their bonny goons, and great big hats with little croons, joined in many a queer like crew, that they might get a better view, and see the Greek boat race, lad. They're at the boats, a keelman cried, I'll back Bob for a guinea. Which Bob, says I, and he replies, the Bob that wins me hinny. So at the bridge I sure enough, both went with their stripped to the buff, then silence real, as still as death, folks agitated held their breath, till all at once the stillness broke, for both the men had made a stroke, that started for the race, man. They're off, was then the shout, with lots of deafening cheering, and steamers, keels and banks about, I nearly lost me hearing. Gan on Bob Copper show the way, push Chambers win, I'll bet the day. Amid a world of voices roar, the calm but quickly plied the oar, and pulled away with real goodwill. A fine display of strength and skill was Chambers and Cooper's race, man. Cooper's strokes was short but quick, so bonny, clean and strengthy, while Chambers pulled his man to lick, with strokes both strong and lengthy. Down to their knees both bow their head, and struggle hard to get the lead. Then folks amazed shut up their gobs. You'll hear their shouts from Sandgate knobs. The champions' friends appeared dismayed, on every brow there's cast a shade, for Cooper reads the race, man. The ready off man, it's Skinner's born, kept on his lead and christened. Gone on Bob Chambers, take your tone and give your man a fleecing. The champion made a splendid sport, it seemed to make his friends divert. For dowdy thoughts for Harry's crew rode out. Me lad, you've got him now, but sad mistake. Soon was seen that Gabe Bob Cooper wasn't green, but he still leads the race, man. Then Cooper victory seemed to grab with Chambers at his corner. 'Twas said that Cooper copped a crab and the Chamber copped a tartar. The hero of 100 spins was doomed at last, for Cooper wins, and past the post a length of heed he flew with undiminished speed. The wise folk said with mocking grin, I always tell you we would win before the pull the race, man. Long may Tyneside produce such men to try to copy his paces. But if they intend to pull it again, long may we see such races. Though cheers for Cooper ye may raise, Bob Chambers still deserves great praise. For when two men like this contest with honest pride and did their best, I'm sorry that one should give in. I only wish that both would win. That would be a glorious race, man.
The wrong place, yeah. No. Well, you just turn it around to whatever it is when it comes up. The next song's about a race between Bob Chambers and Tom White of Bermondsey. Chambers won the single scull race at the Thames Regatta in 1858, beating the best of the Thames scullers. And this state of affairs didn't please London connections, and the search was on to find a sculler who'd defeat Chambers. Tom White was chosen to do battle in the interests of Cockneydom, and the race took place on the Tyne on the 19th of April 1859, from the High Level Bridge to the Scotswood Suspension Bridge for £200 a side. The Tyne was a working river, and as such there were hazards along the course such as moored keels and wherries. This is a slightly earlier watercolour painting in the collection at the Laying Art Gallery, showing a keelman getting his orders with keels being rowed in quite a fancy manner with the leg cot behind. So you needed to look out for the keels and wherries, and particularly if you were going on the northern side, which was normally the most sheltered side, you'd find that there were boats close to the shore. And in this case, White bored in on Chambers, forcing him close to those boats, and he'd only travelled about 400 yards when he collided with a moored keel. The flooding tide, because they always raced on the last hour of the tide, whipped the stern of his skiff round, and he found himself facing the wrong way. So by the time he'd extricated himself from the keel, got his boat pointing upriver and set off in pursuit of White, he was 100 yards behind. The odds offered on a Chambers victory at that moment give a good idea of what the money men thought his chances were of catching White. You could get 50 to 1 against Chambers on one of those chasing boats. And what happened next astonished the Tyneside crowd. Chambers didn't give up, but he sculled at such a pace that by the time he reached the Annie, that's the first of the islands, just beyond the mile mark, he cut the deficit to 60 yards. Within the next mile, he'd taken the lead, leaving White to row through his backwash, and it was performances such as this that earned Chambers the nickname Honest Bob for his straightforward efforts in all races, whatever the circumstances. He went on to win the Championship of the Thames and the Tyne, and defeating the Australian champion Richard Green on the Thames in June 1863. For the first time he took the title Champion of the World. So, Chambers and White.
The time with fame is ringing on heroes old and young, flesh was daily winging, but now old men are sung in praise of honest Chambers, the Tyneside men the pride, who defeated White of London for £100 a side. Singing pull away, pull away, pull away, boys, pull away so clever, pull away, pull away, pull away, boys, Chambers forever. boys, them cheers soon rend the air. Like lightning they pass by us, the game and plucky pair. Greek meets Greek, then faster, and faster goes the pace. Gan on Chambers, gan on White, may the best men win the race. Singing, pull away, boys, pull away forever. Pull away, boys, Chambers forever. Stroke for stroke, contending, the sweep on with a tide. Fortune seems impending, the victor to decide. At last the Cockney loses strength, the fouling game did steal. He leaves his one at every length, and runs Chambers into the keel. Pull away, boys, pull away forever. Pull away, boys, Chambers forever. What a hullabaloo! How the Cockney speeded away. Everybody thought the race was over. Some say it was a deed robbery, others a worry, and walked home before the finish of the race. There was a chap standing aside me with his hands in his pockets. I'm certain there was nothing else in his pockets. Looking on the river with a face like a fiddlestick. And he sung the following lament and dodge after the style of nae good luck. Said one poor soul, I've sold the pigs, me pluck, me jars the bed, and don't a walker, I must walk when I'm out of road instead. Look, there's Ward Jim and all the crew, has pawned every stitch of their clears, and they say there's two chops sell their wives, the six to forward to raise. For oh dismay upon that day, an earnest did begin, and on every face a tramp might trace. Ways forced, Bob, oh the Cockney sure to win. 10 lengths ahead, farewell bedsteed, me aching bairns nae mair. Oh, ye mun rowl, no, this poor soul must rest on deep despair. Oh, Nanny T shall course and flee, and belt me like a talk. For I've lost me money, time and spree, and maybe's lost me walk. For oh, dismay upon that day, an earnest did begin. On every face a check might trace. Ways forced, Bob, oh, the Cockney's sure to win. Coming down, after all was over, I meets one of our chaps, an Irishman. They called him Patrick, but I called him Mick for shortness. He wouldn't wait for the finish, although he backed Bob. So I hailed him, "How, Mick? What fettle? Ways forced." "Go to blazes," said he. "Nonsense, Mick. No, you tell me ways forced." "Oh, sure," says he. "The London man was forced halfway before the race was quarter over." "Hard on, Mick. No, that's all in your heed. Did you lay out on him, I mean, Bob?" "By me soul, I did know I'd like to take this lump on a stick and hit it on his dirty coconut head. The next time I speculate on floating property, may I be struck down with a button on my upper lip as big as a clock face." "But Chambers is forced," shoots out. "Ah, did you mean to say that?" says he. "Oh, didn't I tell you no? He'd win before he started now. Hurry up now, more power in. Fire away, man. Pull away, pull away, pull away, boys. Pull away, forever. Pull away, pull away, pull away, boys. Chambers forever. Well, that's the end of the first half.
Indeed.
And you might have guessed that that song, of course, was written by Ned Coven, who accompanied himself by playing the fiddle, but he was also a master of writing about 3 different tunes for every song and putting the patter in. So, in the interval, if you'd like to talk to Ian about some of the discoveries he's made when doing research on this, and order his books as well, because he's got 2 books, one on Rowan and a wonderful book on Renforth with lots of illustrations.